This video is a complete walkthrough of the Effect Controls panel. It's one of the most important aspects of the Premiere Pro interface, and my aim here is to give you the clearest possible explanation of all the various features of that panel so that you can use it confidently to make your videos. This is quite a long video at around 25 minutes. It needs 25 minutes to get through all of the features that are in the Effect Controls panel. But if you want to just look for one particular thing that you're interested in, this video is split up into chapters, and so you can go directly to the piece that you want to see and you can use it as a reference. There are some things that can be done better in other panels. For example, the Essential Graphics panel or the Essential Sound panel, but we can deal with those in other videos. My purpose here is to help you understand everything and eliminate all the mysteries of the Effects Control panel. There are also some features of the Effect Controls panel that go beyond the scope of this video. They are things like animation, masking, and blend modes. We can deal with those in other videos. If there are features of the Premiere Pro interface that are a mystery to you, things that you would like me to produce a video on to try and clarify, then please drop me a comment and I'll endeavour to do that for you. You can see the Effects Control panel here up on the top right of my Premiere Pro interface. But if for any reason it's not showing up on yours, I'll just close that panel. Then you can go to Window and click on Effect Controls, and you'll have it back. You can move it to anywhere you want within that panel, and you have it there. Another way to do that would be to use the shortcut Shift 5. So if I close it again and just simply type Shift 5, you can see that Effect Controls comes right back into the interface. If by any chance you don't see it, just check that you're in the right workspace. You can do that either using button for all the interfaces and go to Essentials, or you can go to Window and Workspaces and click on Essentials. And again, if your Essentials is a little bit different, if you've moved panels around, you can simply reset to saved layout, and you'll certainly see the Effect Controls panel. Let's just adjust the interface a little bit just to give us a little bit more space on the Effect Controls panel as we go through it. This is the program monitor that you can see on the left, and this is the Effect Controls panel, and on the right hand side of it you can see that you have a playhead that allows you to move through the clip. If you move right to the left, you have moved to the beginning of the clip, which you can see down in the timeline. If you move all the way to the right, you have moved to the end of that clip. Then on the left hand side of the Effect Controls panel, you have the various effects that you can adjust the parameters for. In this particular clip, no additional effects have been added, so this is the basic set of effects that you get with a video clip. If I click on the audio section of this, you'll see the effects of volume and channel volume and a panner that you get with an audio clip. And if I click on a linked selection here and they both come up, you can see that you get both the video controls and you also get the audio controls. So within video, first of all, we're going to look at motion. For all of the controls in this panel, you'll see that there is an arrow that points either down or to the right. If it's pointing to the right, that gives you the opportunity to expand that particular set of controls, and if it's pointing down, they are already expanded. So as you can see, there are a number of different controls that we can go into individually and change the values as we need to. The clip as it is at the moment just has the basic standard default effects on it, but if you go to the effects panel, you can drag any other effect that you might want onto it, such as here I've dragged the crop effect onto that, and you can crop from the left or you can crop from the right, the top or the bottom as you need to. And if we click on that and just press the delete key, then that effect has been removed again. For the purposes of this video, we're just going to go through the default set of controls that you get with any clip on the Effect Controls panel. You can see that there are a number of little stopwatch buttons that are against each of the individual controls that are here. And when we go down to the audio section, you can see that they are highlighted in blue. So those stopwatch effects allow you to add keyframes, and keyframes are used for controlling animation. So to give you a quick example, if I animate the scale of this, as soon as I click the stopwatch, it will put a keyframe at that point. If we move along a little bit further, and then, for example, if we increase the scale of that, then as the playhead moves through these two keyframes, you'll see that it changes the scale as it goes through. Now, as I said at the beginning, we're not going to deal with all the aspects of keyframing, so I'm going to just click on that little stopwatch. It tells me it's going to remove the keyframes, and we're back pretty much to the way that we were. If you ever make any changes to these various controls and you want to get back to the way things were, there is a little button that is a reset button which resets the parameter back to standard. You can always click on that. And another way to do that might be to right click on the clip in the timeline and click on remove attributes, and here you can check the attributes that you want to remove. You don't have to remove them all, but if, for example, you've messed up some of the motion attributes that we're discussing just at the moment, then you could check motion and uncheck all the others and say OK, and it just deletes everything and puts everything back to standard in the motion controls in the Effect Controls panel. If you make some changes to various controls, you can switch on or off effects with the FX button. That switches off all of the controls. To give you an example, if we had moved the position across to the right, then we don't want the motion effects to take effect and make any changes to that clip, you can just simply click on the FX button. That you can see there's now a cross through it, which means that motion controls are having no effect on that clip, and then we can bring them back on. So we'll just reset that. Looking now in more detail at the motion controls section, if I click on motion, you'll see that we get control points around the clip in the program monitor, and we can use those then to adjust the clip whatever way we want, and we can, control the scale of it or the rotation of it, whatever else it is that we want, and we can control the position of it. That's one way to do it in the program monitor if you don't want to adjust all the individual parameters of the position, the scale, the rotation, etc. So let's just reset all of these back to standard. I want to take these now slightly out of order and cover the anchor point, which is just a little bit further down the list of controls in the motion section. The reason for that is that where the anchor point is set affects most of these other parameters. If you click on anchor point, you'll see that there is a highlighted circle and crosshairs in the middle of it, and as you hover over that, you'll see that the pointer changes to show that you're in a position to move the anchor point. If we don't move the anchor point and we scale the video, you'll see that it scales from that point, or indeed if we rotate the video, it rotates around the anchor point. Let me just reset these again. Everything's back to normal and we're on the anchor point. If I move the anchor point to somewhere else, like for example the top left hand corner, and we go to scale the clip in that situation, if I scrub to the right and scale it, you'll see it is scaling up or down from the top left hand corner. So where the anchor point is controls where the clip scales from. It controls where the clip rotates around. So you see now it's rotating around the top left hand corner. So the key thing is to make sure that the anchor point is where you want it to be. I'm just resetting all of these back to the way that they were originally. So we're all back to normal now at this situation. So the key thing is to have the anchor point first of all set to where you want it to be in order to get the effect that you want, or in order to get the effect operating from the correct place in the clip. So let's look now at position. You'll see against position there are two values. These are the pixel coordinates of where the anchor point for that clip is. So I'm on a 4K clip, which is 3840 in terms of its width, and it's 2160 in terms of its height. And you can see that these values are exactly half of that because the anchor point is halfway down the clip and it's halfway horizontally along to the right on the clip. If the anchor point was to be at 0, in other words the top left hand side of the clip, you can see the position is still showing where the anchor point is of 1920 and 1080. If I was to make those to be 0 and put the position of the clip at the top left hand side of the program monitor, then you'll see that everything returns to normal. But that means that the anchor point is up here and rotation, scale and everything else will take effect from that point. Let's return it all back to normal. I can just click on reset for motion. Everything goes back. All of the controls that are subsidiary to motion will be reset to normal. If you want to move the position of the frame, you can just simply click on the number, horizontal or vertical, and drag to the left or to the right, and the clip will move within the program monitor. So that was horizontal, and if we now move this to the right, it'll move down, move it to the left, it'll move up. Just reset everything to standard. So that's pretty much what you need to know about position. Scale, we've already discussed briefly. It starts off at 100, which is 100% scale. That may not be the case if you put a clip that is a lower resolution than the current sequence is set for. So supposing you have a sequence on your timeline that is a 4K sequence and you put a 1080p clip onto that, you'll need the scale to be 200% in order for it to fill the frame in the program monitor. If we drag this to the left and reduce it here, we've reduced it to 68%. You'll see that you just get black around it. That's because there's nothing in below that. Let's move that up and let's move a different clip in below it. And you'll see now that the clip, we've reduced it to 68% at scale, and you'll see that it now around about it reveals the clip that is in below it. So I've just reset that back to standard. You can see that the little arrow beside scale is pointing to the right, which means there's scope for us to open that up. And if we open it up, you'll see that there is the opportunity to control the scale width separately from the scale height. So we uncheck uniform scale, and if we now alter the scale height, you'll see that it's not affecting the width. And if we alter the width, you'll see that it is not affecting the height. So you'll be changing the aspect ratio of the clip if you change these independently. If we recheck this, it'll take them back to the standard aspect ratio that we started with. If we move on now to rotation, the anchor point is in the middle of the clip. So you can see that if I move the rotation parameter round to the right, it will rotate the clip. We've moved it through 90 degrees. We've moved it now through approximately 180 degrees. So it's upside down, and we're coming back now to the way it originally was. And once we get past 360, you can see that it now says 1x 37 degrees. So that is one rotation plus 37 degrees. So it's useful if you're going to animate this to know maybe how many rotations you want to animate it through. You can control it by dragging this parameter left or right. For any of these parameters though, you can just simply type in the value. So if I just typed in 90 for that, you'll see that it immediately goes to 90 degrees. Or if I type in 0, we're back at 0 degrees. We've already discussed anchor points, so I'm not going to go through that again. And in my view, strangely, there is an effect here called anti-flicker. It's a filter that you can add to a clip that if, for example, you've been filming with a shutter speed that conflicts a little bit with the LED lights that might be in a room, or maybe car headlights, if they're LED car headlights, then sometimes you get a flickering on the video, and you can adjust the degree of anti-flicker that you want to add onto that to attempt to eliminate that. So you can experiment with that if you find that there is some flickering in your video. I find it strange that that is put on as default, because it's something that rarely comes up in my experience. So moving on now to opacity, let's just close down motion and open up opacity. And you'll see here that there is a value that is set to 100%. 100% opacity means that it's solid, that you can't see anything through it. However, if I pull that opacity down a bit, you'll see that you can see through that. And if I was to put another clip in below it, you'll see now that you can see the other clip in below that, and you've kind of got two clips, one overlaying the other. You can control the opacity. It's currently set to 41. We could make that clip a little bit more solid by raising that up to 78, but you can still see through it to the effect of about 22%. So let's put the opacity back up to 100%. You can see above opacity there are a number of shapes here. These are for adding masks to the clip. If I add the rectangle mask to it, you'll see that we immediately get a rectangle here where the clip can be seen in the rectangle but not be seen outside of it. I could change the shape of this rectangle. I could add other points onto it. We could have it whatever shape it needs to be. It doesn't need to be a rectangle. I can just click on that mask and delete it. And we could have put on an ellipse instead, and again change the values of that. So you can see that everything inside the mask shows through down onto the next layer. And you could, if you wish, invert that mask so that it's only what's outside of the mask that shows down onto the next layer. You can have more than one mask at the same time, so you can have multiple areas within your video that show overlaid on top of the whatever track is below. In this case, it's just the black of blank video because there's nothing in below this particular clip. So let's delete that second mask. You can feather the mask. It comes with a default of 10 pixels, but you can change the feather of the mask. And you can change the mask opacity so that it only shows through a little bit. You can also change the mask expansion, so you can expand it beyond the original setting that is here. You can also do this directly in the program monitor. If you click on the mask, you'll see that the parameters are all here. This is the feathering of the mask, and you can make it very gradual. This one is the mask expansion that you can bring up or down, and these of course are the various control points that control the shape of the mask whatever way you want it to be. And if you hold it down and get the hand, then you can move it around as you need to. If you don't want the mask anymore, you can simply click on the mask and you can delete it. But just before I do that, I'll just show you as well that if we click on the effect for opacity, you can take all of those effects off. In this case, the mask still shows up, but it's not having any effect on it. If we want to get rid of it, we can click on the mask and just press delete, and it's now gone and we're back to normal. I mentioned earlier the concept of blend modes. Let's just move this clip up onto the next track and slip another clip in below it. You can't see the other clip because it's overlaid. It's the clip that we have been working on. I can change the way in which that clip affects the clip below it by changing the blend mode. So currently it's normal, but you can change to various other modes. In this case, I've chosen a blend mode of darken, which means that anything on this clip which is darker than the clip below will be overlaid onto the clip below, and anything that is lighter will have no effect on the clip below. So that's a good way of, in this case, just making both of these appear together. It almost looks like there's two sets of planes there. So it's way beyond the scope of this particular video to discuss all of these blend modes. But you can see that if you pick the right one, you can get a perfect overlay of these two clips. So just go back to the normal blend mode. Let me just reset and move those clips back to the way that they were. The final control that we want to look at in terms of the video section is time remapping. Now, I'm not going to go into great detail on time remapping because it could be the subject of a complete video. But it controls the speed at which that particular clip plays, and you can add to the video keyframes as to where the speed will change. So if, for example, at about halfway through the clip, somewhere like here, we decide to increase the speed that the clip plays at, so I can put a keyframe here, and I can click on the line beyond that which controls the speed at which it changes, and you can see that the velocity parameter is changing. I can bring that up to 200% here, and you'll see that it's running at 100% up to that particular keyframe, and then it runs at 200% after that. So you can see that that has caused the clip to be shortened as it's running faster through the second part of it. There are two little parts to that keyframe that are here, and we can separate those by dragging, for example, this one to the left, and that means that instead of the speed changing abruptly from 100 to 200, it will change gradually. You can then change it back down again. This kind of thing is useful for speed ramping or for a short section where you want to slow the motion down and then speed it up again after that. So you can add as many keyframes as you want. Managing the keyframes for time remapping could be the subject of a whole other video. One thing to be aware of though is how much you can slow a clip down. In this case, it's a 100 frames per second clip that we have on the timeline, and we could slow that down. We could slow it down to 50. Or we could slow it down to 25, and that would be just fine because it's a 25p timeline that we've got, and it will play quite smoothly at that level. But if you had a clip that was originally only 25 frames per second and you try to slow that down to half of its original speed, then you're going to get jerky motion that in the timeline there, because you're going to get 2 frames for every 1 frame that's in the clip, and it's going to look a little bit jerky. Premiere has various ways to deal with that, and if you right click on the clip and go to time interpolation, the 3 options that you have are frame sampling, frame blending, or optical flow. Again, I'm not going to go into those, but they're just different methods of slowing down a clip so that it still looks as if it has some smooth motion to it. That covers everything that's in the video section here, and I now want to take a quick look at the audio section. The first thing to say is your audio is very much better dealt with within the Essential Sound panel, which controls very more things that you may want to adjust than are available in the Effects Control panel. What you can do within this is you can adjust the volume of that clip, and you can set parameters along there for how you want the volume to change. You can also set the volume independently for each of the 2 channels that are on your clip, the left channel or the right channel. And another way of doing that might be just to adjust the balance between the left and right. So you can control that and move it towards the right or move it towards the left. So you could, for example, if there was a sound of a car going past on the screen, you could keyframe this and you could set the balance to the left if the car enters to the left to start with, and then you could move it to the right as the car moves to the right and give the effect of the sound moving past if it had been recorded in mono maybe in the first place. But as I say, although you can do many things with the audio effects that are in the Effect Control panel, it's very much better to deal with all of that in the Essential Sound panel. So that really covers all of the default controls that are available to you within this panel, and I hope that you find that useful. There's hundreds of effects that you could add on to this, Like for example, if we just drag on horizontal flip, you'll see that it immediately faces the other direction, and you could mask that and do all the usual things to these effects. But we've just dealt with the standard set of effects that are available to everybody. So I hope that you find that that eliminated a number of the mysteries that maybe are within the effect controls panel, and I hope that you feel a bit more confident in dealing with it. And if you do, then please give the video a like. And if you want to see me deal with some of the other aspects of the Premiere Pro interface, then please subscribe to the channel and you'll get notified when those videos get posted. Thank you for watching, and we look forward to seeing you in the next one.